Hi everyone, my name is Karen. This is my channel Rather Be Reading, and today I'm bringing to you a recent reads video. It has been a week since we last checked in for a recent reads video. I have read 5 books and DNF'd one further book over this past week. So let's just get into the books that I've read and DNF'd and talk about my thoughts on them. So the very first book that I read over this past week was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. So I'm sure you guys all know, oh my god, so much cat hair, know what this is about. This is a very, very popular YA contemporary. It's about a girl named Kath who is in her first year of college, and when she goes to college, she has a twin sister, and her twin sister is the more kind of confident of the two of them, and her sister has told her that she doesn't want to room with her at college, and her sister is very much taking this opportunity of their first year of college to kind of separate herself and find an identity separate from kind of their twin relationship at college. And so Kath is rooming with a roommate who she doesn't know, and like going to all different classes from her twin, and doesn't know anyone, doesn't have any friends, and is very much trying to deal with all of that. Kath is also the shyer, obviously, of the twin, like I kind of mentioned, but also deals with some more kind of anxiety type of related issues. Definite trigger warnings in this for anxiety and like panic attacks. Also, they have a single father, and their father is also dealing with mental health issues. It does have a romance in it, of course. And then it also deals very heavily with fan kind of culture. Kath is very obsessed with this book series, this fictional book series, and it's called Simon Snow, which is very clearly based on Harry Potter. And she writes fan fiction for it, and that's a very, very big part of her life. Now, the one thing that people always talk about in this is how relatable they find Kath as a character. And I think that that's got to do, obviously, with the like kind of social anxiety and all of that she's suffering from, but also like her fan culture. Like obviously on BookTube, we're a big group of kind of people who are into fan culture a lot of the times. And yes, I did relate to all of those things, but the thing that I loved most about this, and that really like kind of hit me in the gut while I was reading this, was there's some sections kind of through the middle that I just related to so hard. And it wasn't necessarily about Kath herself. It was more about the feelings of isolation and loneliness. There have definitely been some periods in my life where I felt the way that Kath felt in this book. And the way that it was portrayed felt so raw. To me, it was like I was sobbing through a good chunk of the middle part of this, because it really took me back to some parts of my life that were not the greatest times in my life, not in like a bad way. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the characters, really enjoyed the romance. The one thing I'll say that was kind of a bit that I didn't love was I do think that this had kind of a negative attitude towards medication and like therapy in relation to mental illness. Not like overly outwardly saying, but I think it could have done more to kind of speak about, because some people do not benefit from therapy or medication, but I think it could have done more to kind of highlight that that is something that you should look into, and that every person should make attempts to kind of seek for themselves whether that's the best option for them. But I really, really, really enjoyed this. I gave this 4.5 stars. Like I really just felt this book, you know what I mean? Really enjoyed it. Like I said, 4.5 stars. I then completed the audiobook that I had started last week of The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. So this is a thriller. It all surrounds the story of that there was this kind of mansion type house that in the 80s, 3 adults were found dead kind of in the house. And upstairs, there was a 10-month-old baby found. The baby was totally fine, had been being cared for. However, the adults had been dead for some time, so there was this kind of mystery surrounding, well, what happened to these adults? What happened to them, but also who was taking care of this baby? They know that there were some people, like some children, like more teenage type children staying in the house, who they don't know what happened to them. So you're kind of getting that storyline, and we're getting it more from the perspective of it being 25 years, I think it is 24 or 25 years in the future, where we're following this character who was the baby, who's now turned 25 and is discovering who she is and finds out about her being this baby, and then is trying to kind of discover who she is, who her family were, what happened back then. And you do get multiple perspectives. So you get that perspective, you get another present day perspective, and then you get a perspective of one of the like kind of teenage boys who's living in the house back like in the 80s, and you're kind of seeing everything that was going on and kind of trying to figure out all of the like mystery of what's going on. I really enjoyed this. I would actually say that this is my favorite of Lisa Jewell's books that I've read so far, which is interesting because I've seen mixed reports of this. Some people have really, really enjoyed this book, and then other people really, really didn't enjoy it. I personally did. Yes, and this is a problem that I've had with Lisa Jewell, most of her books. Her books are not overly shocking. And that was kind of the case with this one as well. There was nothing that really happened that she just kind of takes you on the ride of the mystery of kind of finding things out. But there's no real point ever in her stories where I'm like, oh, what? Which I do love in a thriller. But this story was just very like mysterious though, and like creepy, and there was like a lot going on. There is a slew of trigger warnings that I'm going to put out there for this book. Suicide, miscarriage, stillbirth, child abuse, homophobia, rape, animal abuse. There's just a lot going on. I should say that this is narrated on audio by Tamarin Payne, B. Holland, and Dominic Thorburn. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Like I said, it was my favorite of Lisa Jewell's book so far, and I ended up giving it 3.75 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was also an audiobook, and that was 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. This is narrated on audio by Joy Ormansky and Corey Brill. So this is a YA contemporary. I'm sure you've probably all heard of this because the movie came out this year, which is how I first heard about it, and then my library got the audiobook, and so I thought I'd give it a go. So it's basically about 2 teenagers who both have cystic fibrosis, which is a chronic illness, and it's a condition that affects the lungs. And the issue with cystic fibrosis sufferers is that there's different strains and like bacteria that go with cystic fibrosis, from what I understand, and people who suffer with it cannot be too close to each other, like people who both suffer with it, because they have different strains and different levels of the illness, and you can get infected further and like worse by other people who have the illness. And so cystic fibrosis sufferers have to always be at least 6 feet apart from each other, and so the title comes from a romance that blossoms between 2 people who both have cystic fibrosis, who are going to be 5 feet apart because they want to be inside that 6 feet apart barrier. This was interesting, kind of. I didn't love this. I found it personally to be the type of story that it felt emotionally manipulative while I was reading it. It felt like it was just everything is kind of just engineered to make you feel really sad, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I guess. I didn't love the characters. I can't speak to the cystic fibrosis rep, and there seem to be mixed feelings, which like in the reviews of whether it was accurate or not, which to me probably says that it is accurate to some people's story, because like I said, I've mentioned this recently with something else. Not everyone's story of all illnesses and mental illnesses and different events that they've experienced are all going to be the same. So I can't speak to that, but I will say, without spoiling anything, I liked the way that it ended, but overall I just felt like kind of cheesy but emotionally manipulative at the same time, like just kind of, but it wasn't like terrible, like it was okay. I ended up giving it 3 stars, like it was just like an okay book. Next, I read The Gods of Guilt by Michael Connolly. So this is a book in the Mickey Haller series. So as I've mentioned a million times, basically every book that Michael Connolly, I think every book that he's published, they eventually intertwine. They're all kind of set in the same universe but follow different lead characters. So this was technically a reread because I read this when I originally started with the Mickey Haller series. That's how I got into Michael Connolly. I read the Mickey Haller series, or what was published at that point, first, and then I went back and wanted to read the Harry Bosch, and then that's when I realized they were kind of all as intertwined as they were. And so I'm reading each book kind of, even if I've already read it, as I come across it. So this is a Mickey Haller novel. So this is more court-based. Mickey Haller is a defense attorney. This So as I'd already read it on Goodreads and I gave it 3 stars the first time, and I'm just giving it 3 stars again. I enjoyed it. There's nothing amazing about this one. There is no real twists and turns with this like crime mystery. You just kind of again taken on the journey of like kind of discovering what happened, but there's no like truly like shocking moments or anything. But like it was enjoyable enough. Like I enjoyed it. I like Mickey Haller as a character. I enjoy Michael Connelly's writing. So yeah, it was just like a easy 3 stars, like nothing amazing. Next, I had my DNF. That was Head Over Heels by Jill Mansell. This was one that I had started on audio. And it's a longer audiobook. It was close to 15 hours. If I recall what's going on with my hair over here. It was close to 15 hours. I think it's like a 450 page book. I listened to over a quarter of the way through. So I think it worked out to about 120 pages worth. This is a contemporary romance type of story, like more like kind of chick lit style. The synopsis basically sets it up as being about this woman who has a teenage son who she's never kind of revealed who his father is. And in the kind of town or village where she lives, there is a movie star who is moving to their village with his wife and children. And it come to be revealed right at the start that he is the father of her child, that they had a romance when they were younger, and he doesn't know about the baby, or not a baby, the now teenage boy. And right at the front, it's not like a spoiler, right up at the top of the story, he realizes that this is his son. And so you kind of, that's what the synopsis says that it's about. And it is about that, but there's also a bazillion other storylines going on. There are so many characters, and some of them have like kind of similar names. It was a real task to figure out who was who. I was really struggling to figure, like, besides the like main people, because you get a lot of different perspectives and stuff as well. You're just kind of thrown in with like characters, and I was so confused as to who was who that by the time I kind of, and I'm not even sure if I eventually did figure out who everyone was, by the time I did kind of feel like I was on like, you know, equal footing with who the people were, I just didn't care about the story. I'm also pretty sure that this is going to deal quite heavily with cheating. Like it's basically said in the synopsis that it's about rekindling of the romance between the movie star and this woman. He's married, so I'm not sure how that's going to work, but there's also what seemed to be kind of a precursor to some cheating in some like of the other storylines as well, which I don't love in my story. So yeah, I just was like not willing to put the time into finishing that audiobook, and so I did DNF that one. And then the final book that I completed this past week is What Happened That Night by Deanna Cameron. This is a arc that I have received from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This is a YA thriller. I will say that it's YA, it follows a teenage character, and like it is marketed as YA. It's pretty dark, so I would definitely say that it's like the upper end of YA. Definite trigger warnings for rape and animal abuse, but rape is like a massive theme of this book, so be aware of that going in. So my foot is like asleep really badly. So this is a story about, so we're basically following a teenage girl. I think she's like a senior in high school, so she's like an older teenager, who at the start of the story we know that a teenage boy who lived next door to them was found dead, and that about a month after he was found dead, that her sister was arrested for murdering the boy who lived next door and is in jail. And so we're following her, like the sister of the girl who's in jail, and kind of finding out what happened that night and how it all, like what has happened basically. I don't want to like spoil anything really. Although again, it's more like, it's not even really mystery. Like it kind of is, but there's no real like massive twists really. I don't know. I think there are maybe some things in it that some people would find shocking actually. Anyway, this was kind of a mixed bag for me. It's very dark, which I love. I love my stories dark. I liked where the author kind of went with the story. There are some parts, I guess, where it becomes kind of a mixed bag. So there are some parts that are not entirely plausible, which like you get a lot with these type of stories, but there are definitely parts where you're like, come on now. There's also what I think to be a very unnecessary romance, which happens a lot in these type of YA stories, which I kind of just wish, like it wasn't a bad romance, I just was like, this doesn't need to be in here. I will say that the one thing I loved about this book is that Deanna Cameron showcases, so I've said that there's a trigger warning for rape, but this book showcases both female and male like rape, like, and sexual assault, which is very, very rare in books to show that this can happen to men as well, which I really appreciated that was put into there. And the way that she put it in, I thought was, like, from what I could tell, I'm not someone who has experienced sexual assault, thank goodness, but it was, like, really well done from what I could tell, and I really appreciated that being put into there as well. So I really, really loved that. Like I said, it was kind of a mixed bag, but overall I did enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So that's it. That's what I read this past week. I was hoping to get through more this week than what I ended up getting through, but it was just kind of a crazier week. It was my final week of work, so hallelujah, I am off work now for 16 whole days. This is the first day of my 16 days of leave. I'm so excited to be off work. We had my work Christmas party yesterday, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't get more read, was because there's a graphic novel that I was been planning to read, that I was going to read. My plan was to read that on Friday night, last night, but I had my work Christmas party and I got home at about 7:30, so not super late, but I'd had a couple of drinks. Like, I wasn't drunk or anything, but I'd had a few drinks, and sometimes when you just had even like a few drinks, it makes you really tired. Not to mention that the weather here yesterday hit 46 degrees. It was oppressively hot. Like, it was disgusting. I'll put the Fahrenheit on the screen. I can't remember what it is of what the Fahrenheit temperature was, but it was so hot. And I guess there's arguments about what type of heat is worth, but Australia, or particularly like in the area that I live in, it's a very dry heat. There is not a drop of moisture besides the disgusting sweat on your body to be found anywhere. And so it just feels like such an oppressive, like, oh, it is just awful. And it was so hot. And so I'd also spent the day, so our Christmas party started, like, we worked in the morning and then we broke up at lunchtime and had our, like, Christmas lunch and all of that, and, like, went to, like, a bar and stuff afterwards. So it, like, the heat plus having a few drinks was enough to just knock me straight out to sleep when I got home at around 7:30. And so I didn't end up reading that. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't get more read, but hoping that I still want to get a lot read before this month ends. So I'm hoping that I'm, like, one of the things I'm going to be doing now that I'm off work is just plowing through books like nobody's business. So yeah, that is all I really have for this video, I guess. So please like the video if you're like, oh, let's chat in the comments though. I love chatting in the comments. If you've got thoughts on what I've read, what you guys have been reading, or even if you just want to talk about whether you guys have finished work for the year. Do you guys, like, break up? Does your work break up for Christmas? Like, my office closes. Like, I work at a law firm. The office closes over the Christmas period. So, like, I couldn't work, like, even if I wanted to. It's not me choosing to take leave. It is lovely to have the break, but that's what happens. So it ends up being 16 days off. I don't go back to work till the 6th of January. But are you guys finished for the year, or do you have to work over Christmas? I would love to know. Or to chat about books. I'd love to chat about books too. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. My God, I cannot talk in the end part of this video. Guys, like, subscribe. But that is all I have for this video today. Bye, guys.